Welcome to Season 2, Episode 4 of Dr. G at the Heart of Healthcare, Boston, hashtag I am 2024 highlights. Welcome. We're going to do a little bit different format today. For most of the past few episodes, I've had a guest on the podcast, but today you have me again, and it's good to reminisce about how things were a year ago. Last year, when I covered the internal medicine meeting that was in San Diego, it was just me. And that was episode 5 of season 1, if you want to go check that out. So today we're going to return to that. So I went to the internal medicine meeting in Boston last month, April, that was the 18th to the 20th. And it's internal medicine doctors. Let me first define that for the non-medical listeners here. So internal medicine is the branch of medicine. We call it the cornerstone of healthcare and the foundation of adult clinical care. Serving and leading, I am proud. So there are multiple specialties in medicine. When someone goes to medical school, they then have to select a specialty. Most people know about pediatrics, OBGYN, family medicine, surgery, psychiatry. Internal medicine is the main one. Sorry, everyone else. Then there's a bunch of other specialties that branch off of that. And if you think about it, it's all of the body systems. So if you have the brain, you have neurologists, the heart, cardiologist, kidneys, you have the nephrologist, the lungs, pulmonologist, the GI tract, you have gastroenterologist and hepatologist. And so some of those systems actually are covered in the book, The Real Deal About Hospice. So each of those chapters is broken down into the end stages of those diseases. So anyway, just wanted to give you context to what this is. But anyway, we had the meeting in beautiful Boston. I literally hit the ground running and wish I had more time to explore. That city is just so historic. Some of the sights were beautiful from the air and, even from the hotel. It reminded me of a couple movies, the Equalizer collection and the movie The Town. I know I don't want to minimize that historic city to movies, but that's the only way that I've previously seen some of the sites. I'm going to put a poll with this podcast, and hopefully you guys can post some of your favorite movies there, or go on social media and post what your favorite Boston setting movie is. Also, it's the home of the historic Boston Marathon. I remember when they had that tragic bombing there. My dad was actually in the race that day, and I have a shirt from that one. Don't remember what year that was, but I was in medical school. So anyway, a lot of things happen in Boston, and so we are thankful that we were able to see that city. So the conferences are typically in the convention center. And so the host hotel, the Westin, is right there, and they have great service. Bonvoy Platinum Elite. Hello. And so we took a bridge right over to the convention center, and it was great. And so today I'm going to do like I always do after a conference, just go day by day with my highlights and some of my takeaways, and hopefully you'll find them enlightening. I'll have some of the links in the show notes, but this episode is helpful for physicians and non-physicians because we all have to pay attention to our health. So I had a red eye on Wednesday night and landed at 6 a.m. in Boston and literally hit the ground running because the first session was at 7 a.m. And the first stop for me after taking that bridge from the hotel to the convention center was getting my badge. I have it on actually here. For those of you watching on YouTube, you can see how fun it is. And if you follow me on Twitter/X, you'll see the hashtag I am 2024, and you can see some of the photos. Also on LinkedIn, I have a day-by-day highlight post for day 1, day 2, and day 3. So you got to get this fun badge. put your little stickers on it, and then go take that iconic picture in front of the ACP logo. So you'll also see that on the post. And then the opening ceremony was, first of all, thank you to Dr. Darylyn Moyer, who leads the organization. She greeted us and very enthusiastic. And so she introduced Dr. Eric Topol out of San Diego, actually down here where I am. And he talked about how AI can change medicine for the better, not how we're mostly sitting at our computers when we're talking to patients and not really having time to be with them, but actually bringing out empathy and more of our humanity using AI to help us. And so I don't think anyone here will be able to see that unless you went to the conference, but I would recommend watching that. Um, and also a tidbit, I didn't know that from the intro that Dr. Topol founded the medical school at the Cleveland Clinic. That was news to me. So exciting news about that. Then the other highlight of that day was the early career physicians networking luncheon. That's always a great time to meet folks from around the country and make new connections. So that's Thursday. Now moving on to Friday. I have a few highlights here. So the morning, mind-blowing cardiology update. And first, I want to say my strategy when I go to conferences is to hit all of the updates at the ACP conference. So there's an update for each of those systems that I told you about. So there's an update in gastroenterology, endocrinology, hematology, oncology, pulmonology, all those systems, there's an update. So for Friday, the cardiology update was mind blowing by Dr. Clyde Yancey out of Northwestern. And so I'm going to tell you a little bit about the summary. And you can also find a post about that from my IM 2024 hashtag post on X. But it was just phenomenal. And some of the things from that session was the breakthrough in cardiology and the new syndrome he talked about, cardio kidney metabolic syndrome, something new we've created, the prevent equation for primary prevention of uh, cardiovascular disease, and also Life's Essential 8. Wonderful things. And also how cardiology is being revolutionized by these medications. I know everyone is online is talking about Ozempic and all these things, but recognizing that all of these medications are addressing the metabolic issues that are leading to the cardiovascular disease. It was just great. You'll have to try to find the recording, or when I put the links to the American Heart Association in the show, you can go look at this stuff yourself. But it was really inspiring, and I recommend checking that out. Then we had the breaking news plenary session from the authors of the Annals of Internal Medicine. The editor was there. It was so cool to hear her voice in real life, because sometimes you can catch the podcast of some of the articles, and so to see her in person and hear her voice, that was pretty cool. The one of the articles that stood out to me talked about time restricted eating. It really doesn't matter, all that intermittent fasting. It's really goes back to how much calories in, calories out at the end of the day. Then on Friday, I had lunch with some of the friends from the New York ACP chapter. We are part of the Med Twitter crew, and so we had lunch and then tried to make it to the women physicians lunch, but the bouncers kept us out. So just that was our inside joke. There was limited capacity, and so we weren't able to make it in, but it turned into an intimate lunch, where folks can connect. And sometimes you need that instead of, a big crowd, just, one-on-one, being able to talk and share and catch up. So that was a good time. Next, we went to, I went to a narrative medicine session, and I went with my friend Megan to that session. And that was truly refreshing, just on the humanities and wellness side. That was led by a team and Dr. McCary. And the title of that was Stories That Heal and Reveal, a Radical Listening and Reflective Writing Workshop. It kicked off with a poem by Remy entitled The Guest House. And I actually want to read it here because it was so beautiful. And I think, it just helps us to stop and recognize life. So I'm going to go ahead and read it. It's entitled The Guest House. This being human is a guest house. Every morning, a new arrival, a joy, a depression, a meanness, some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all. Even if they're a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture, still treat each guest honorably. He may be clearing you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice, meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. Be grateful for whoever comes because each has been sent as a guide from beyond. Rumi. Isn't that wonderful? All right. Next, after that was party time. We had the ACP California reception. They mix it with Hawaii and Nevada, but California knows how to party, so I say it's ours. So, got to meet some folks in person that I already know from SoCal Region 2 and 3. Shout out to you all. And then also had one of my friends from Boston stop by. Hi, Jerry. So we had a wonderful time there. And then I met some new friends from LA. It's like people from LA, we instantly know who each other is, your hometown, you kind of see each other, you say a few things, and then you say, wait a minute, where are you from? So I met some new friends there. And so that was a wonderful time to get to know those friends and look forward to just continuing our journey together and supporting one another in our careers. Then Saturday, the last day, kind of flew by. So I feel like they saved the best for last. I'm always going to bring everything back to the most important part of medicine, the heart of healthcare, hospice and palliative care. But this was the palliative care session by Dr. Janet Abram. And the title was Palliative Care for Hospitalized Patients. And I really recommend listening to that recording. And if you're not a doctor and you didn't go, you can look on the website Vital Talk. And so Vital Talk is an organization that makes communication skills for serious illnesses learnable. And their evidence-based trainings empower clinicians and institutions. And so we all deal with this. We're taking care of patients with serious diseases, and we could all use some improvement on talking to them and helping get them to the place that they need to be so they can just have the goals of care that best serve their values. And so I have a couple things that I want to point out from that session. She talked about in that one, the clinical questions that she was going to address there. When should I request a palliative care consult? What are the validated communication strategies to use when addressing goals of care with patients and families? And lastly, what are the common symptoms at the end of life? And what is the management of those symptoms? So she covered some really, really good stuff. And so, of course, there were a bunch of other sessions there, but that was my highlight of the final day. And then I had to have lunch with those friends and also another friend from Jamaica. Internal medicine is everywhere. And we enjoyed some O'Connor's, some of the local culture there. I had to get some chowder, the real chowder, clam chowder. And that was good to enjoy, and a lobster roll. And that was my only way of enjoying the city. It was just busy, busy time learning. And then it was great that there was a restaurant connected to the hotel. And so I'm going to also leave you with a couple valuable resources today, in addition to the ones that I've already mentioned within the body of the podcast. Um, Region 3, ACP SoCal Region 3 has a podcast called The DEI Shift, and they put out wonderful content. Last Friday, there was an event at UC San Diego with a wonderful music composer, Chris Dingman, who plays the vibraphone. And he shared a wonderful story of his father's life and the end of his father's life, and how he composed an album entitled Peace, I believe, that he just on the fly started playing for his dad to help calm him at the end of life. And I'm looking forward to listening to that. But that evening, we had a wonderful time of readings, and he played some music, and I was able to share chapter from The Real Deal About Hospice, the pulmonary chapter, and he played along with me. It was just so powerful. So I'm going to put a link to his socials here in the show notes so that you can look him up as well. And so thank you for joining me today. This is the podcast about I Am 2024. I will look forward to I Am 2025. I believe we'll be in NOLA, New Orleans next year. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out through this podcast or on any of our social media platforms. And I thank you for joining me today. Peace.